Ah, yes. An IP with an extensive world and lore where we as the consumer follows often flying creatures of light who use fire to purge darkness from a once peaceful world. We follow a central story but with several tangents where we learn about different characters from the past, and all with the ultimate goal of defeating the darkness and returning peace to the world. But enough about all of these franchises. Let's talk about Sky. If you're like me and enjoy video games, you've probably played something along the lines of Dota, League of Legends, Overwatch, Fortnite, CSGO, TF2, Valorant, or the like, aka competitive online games. And you're probably both aware of and have experienced the toxicity that comes from games like these. There's the regular things like swearing, name-calling and such, and then the sexist, racist, homophobic or otherwise slurs slung towards people for making even the smallest of mistakes. Although these games can be fun either alone or with friends, and create some of the best feelings in gaming when you're winning, they can feel like hell on earth when you're losing or not playing at your best. So, what should you do when you want to have fun playing a game, but you don't want to enter such a volatile environment? Well, a lot of people will migrate towards single-player games. Things like Portal, Ori and the Blind Forest, The Witcher, Zelda, Hollow Knight, and so on. A lot of these games are either a series of quests, puzzle games, or both. They make us think and stretch ourselves while putting us in a sterile environment, away from competition and other people who may or may not be angry and irrational at any given time. But what if you want to play with people without being torn down constantly? Well, I guess then you need to find a game that isn't as competitive and thus not as toxic. Things like Minecraft definitely have toxic sides, but generally are calmer gaming environments than League and Overwatch. Although team games like League and Overwatch require cooperation, games like Don't Starve Together and Portal 2's co-op mode more explicitly require cooperation rather than just encouraging it, and thus implicitly ban toxicity as such. But these games still have the opportunity to harm others, such as killing people in Minecraft or portaling someone into water. There are relatively few games that are both multiplayer and entirely lack toxicity. But in the course of the 2021 lockdown and resulting depression, not a very good state to play League of Legends in, I stumbled upon what is possibly one of the only games to create a proper non-toxic environment. And surprisingly, it was by design. A small, or not so small game called Sky, Children of the Light. This episode will cover the history and current state of Sky, Children of the Light, or as I will call it in this video, Sky. It will cover the ways in which Sky's developers, That Game Company, worked to make the game as non-toxic as possible, and whether this actually worked. We will talk about my experience with the game, the positives and negatives of the game, and some of the non-toxic experiences it creates for the community. We'll talk about self-expression and communication, the community and their creations and psychology, and the story and experience of the game. That section and this episode in general will of course contain spoilers, so check the timestamps and be careful if you don't want spoilers for this insane experience. But before we get super far into it, let's take a step back and talk about the history of the development of the game, starting with the history of the company that made it, That Game Company. That Game Company is a game development company located in California. It was founded in 2006 by Genova Chen and Keely Santiago, and currently has less than 50 employees and has published 4 games. These games are Flow, released in 2006, where you play as a sea creature eating other sea creatures to get bigger. Flower, released in 2009, where you drift through a field of flowers controlling the wind. And Journey, released in 2012, where the player is a nomad in the desert, the ruins of an abandoned city, collecting these light runes and going on a journey to the beacon that marks the end of the game. Journey, as the name and gameplay suggests, was the precursor to Sky and inspired its development. Sky was inspired by the experiences of Journey and Flower, which were designed to evoke specific emotions in the player: calm, relaxation, the wish to explore, connection with others, and so on. Sky specifically was designed around the experience of connection between families across cultures, languages, platforms, countries, and more, in the sense of the game giving an experience to the player, players giving to each other, both emotionally and through gifts, and more. It has two sides: the story, which is designed to elicit emotions, described by the devs as a, quote, emotional catharsis, and the players' interactions with each other. The devs explicitly state that they wanted to create better interactions between players by giving them specific tools to work with. As they say, if you give players a gun, they'll want to shoot things. So Sky doesn't allow players to hurt each other or even to use language to communicate offensive things. You need to create a bond first. Additionally, players are encouraged to help each other, as they can shout to recharge other players, thus keeping them alive or allowing them to overcome obstacles and reach further goals. The development team also expressed their desires for a free-to-play model, reaching as many platforms as possible and continuing long-term support and updates for the game. Although there were challenges, such as creating a game that, at that point and even now, was incredibly unique, and the challenges of moving to a free-to-play live service model, That Game Company was determined to make the game. Sky entered development around 2015, after the release of Journey, and was unveiled to the public in 2017 and later released in 2019. The game released with the whole storyline and with player interaction systems running. The game was later updated with seasonal storylines, greater player interaction mechanics, and more cosmetics, areas, and more. The game continues to be updated to this day, and the devs continue their mission of creating a cozy, non-toxic, inclusive game which has something for everyone, connects people, and creates great emotional experiences. There's also this amazing GDC talk about the development of Sky and its storyline, which I think is amazing. Like Jenny, who runs the talk, I am a screenwriting student, so I was fascinated to see her talk about how her skills were relevant to the game. It's also an amazing talk in general, as are all of the GDC talks. I recommend checking it and other talks out on their channel, as they give some unique insights into game development and creativity in general. So, Sky was in development for 4 to 6 years. It was much larger than anything else the studio had created before, had a huge number of goals, and was a unique challenge for them. So, what is the game, and did it achieve those goals? Sky is a multiplayer open-world exploration game developed by That Game Company, which involves the player as a new child of light, journeying through an empty world to collect light and use it to restore the elders and spirits of the world. The game takes about 5 to 6 hours to finish if you just focus on main objectives, and takes about 12 hours to collect side objectives too. It has a pretty linear story and a linear set of objectives. I mean, you literally just follow a beacon from start to end of the main story. That said, it does have side quests and bonus areas you can unlock. If you want to collect every side objective, including side quests, it will probably take more like 20 to 30 hours, and if you want to collect every cosmetic in the game without paying $1 billion, you'll be playing for months or years. The game can be played completely solo, or can be played in groups, and can be played on phone or console, and has recently been announced to be getting a PC port. So what about the actual gameplay itself? What do you do in this game? From here on out, you can expect spoilers, especially for this section. So tread carefully and check the timestamps in the description. This video will include gameplay for both my original account and from a new account which I use to illustrate the experience of a new player. When you first open the game, you land on this little circular stone on this little green island in the middle of a massive sea. You can't leave this island by sea, but you'll notice there are some stones lying on the shore, like the remnants of something. They remind me of Stonehenge. These are the remnants of 6 gates leading you to 6 different realms in the world of Sky. As you follow the linear story of the game, you will unlock these gates and they will reform on this island, which is called your home. There is a 7th gate, a massive monument to your right, which marks the end of the game. We'll come back to this later. Basically, as you progress through the game, your home will get bigger and brighter, and will start to feel less like an island and more like an actual home. This little figure is your player character, called a Sky Kid, a dark-skinned, childlike figure with mittened hands and a tunic. They wear a mask and have a light on their forehead and on their chest. The first gate is already reformed when you load into the game. This is the Isle of Dawn and is basically the tutorial of the game. You can enter each realm by walking through the gate. After a cutscene, you'll be walking through this tunnel with candles, which you can light by clicking on the fire icon. You'll light these candles by pulling out your own candle, which seems to be a physical manifestation of the light in your chest, since the light in your chest disappears when you pull the candle out, and when you put the candle away, your Sky Kid pats their chest like they're putting it back. So we've already got into the deep hidden details of this game, since the candle is literally your heart and light, and is the main way you interact with the world. It's like wearing your heart on your sleeve, but to the next degree. When you light these candles, they'll reveal markings on the wall, telling you the story of the world, where spirits lived in harmony before darkness descended. Your task is to restore light to the world. Through the tunnel, you'll find this vast, sandy isle populated only by white birds. At the far side is a wall of clouds, and far above them, a building with a spire. This is the temple of the isle, and is where you need to bring the light. If you tap on yourself, your character will make a little noise, called a honk by the community, and this little symbol will appear over your current goal, in this case, the temple. This mark is super helpful, since if you choose to explore the environment, which I'd really recommend, you can always find your way back to the main story using it. Or, if you're like me and just wanted to go straight through, it makes your life much easier, since you always know where you need to go next. You jump off this little cliff, and at the bottom you find this glowing light. As you approach, it becomes clear that this light is in the shape of a child. A prompt will appear, and when clicked, the child will shrink and just kind of float into your body. Very weird. I sometimes refer to this as consuming the children. It's a bit odd. But when it does, you'll be able to upgrade by clicking this prompt at the top, and that prompt will form a cape on your back, which the game calls your wing. The golden child is a winged light, and by collecting them, you'll upgrade your wing, which is your main form of transport through this world. You'll notice that the wing has a single star-like point of light at the top, and that when you hold a key, press the screen, or whatever else you need to do for your particular platform, and you fly a little, the light on the wing will disappear and the wedge at the top of your screen will change from yellow to grey. This represents the energy in your cape being consumed. You can gain more energy and thus fly longer by collecting winged light and upgrading your wing. The lack of flying power you have in the early game can be a source of frustration for many, but once you reach about 6 to 8 wedges and learn more about the elements of the game which restore energy, such as flying near clouds, birds, and butterflies, you'll become easily able to quickly traverse the world, and you'll never need to consider your limited flying power again. Journeying across the isle, we come to these stairs leading towards the temple, but there is a blue barrier blocking our way. These are spirit gates, and there are many throughout the world of Sky. They let the player access new areas of the game and to access side quests. This game here is to introduce us to another key aspect of the game, reliving spirit memories. These blue figures are ancestor spirits from the time before darkness fell on this realm, and by lighting them, we can relive their memories and free them from darkness. They will journey with us to the temple, and as our relationship with them grows through exchanging gifts, remember this game is about giving, they will give us emotes, wing power, and cosmetics. You need to have collected a certain number of spirits from a particular realm to go through the spirit gates, but for this one you only need one, and after reliving the memory and gaining our emote, we can pass through the gate and continue up the stairs to the temple. This little run to the temple introduces us to the flying mechanics of Sky. You can fly by consuming wing energy, and there are 2 flight modes, open and closed wing. Open wing allows you to cover a large distance quickly, but is harder to control precisely, and closed wing allows precise movements but doesn't take you places as far or as quickly. Entering the temple, we find an altar to the ancestor elder of this realm. By lighting the altar, we bring light to the elder and thus to the realm. Each realm has an elder to bring light to at the end, and by doing so, we can gain gifts from the spirits we freed in that realm and unlock the next one. Every time you unlock a new realm, another gate will be restored at your home. After you give the elder light, you can go through this door and fly on to the next realm, revealing the title card of the game. This flight is a relatively short one, but is the moment that got me hooked on the game. Flying in this game is so much fun, especially on mobile, where your Sky Kid seems to respond so well and intuitively to your commands. The flying itself is super fun and fluid, with dips and turns feeling amazing. You can feel the momentum and you can feel the expansive nature of the world. This is what flying feels like in my dreams, and the flight mechanics and open world exploration are what got me initially hooked and kept me playing this game. That said though, it's a bit harder on controller and PC, so keep that in mind. Now that we've looked at the intro of the game and introduced much of the basic mechanics, we can go through the rest of it a little bit faster. The second realm is Daylight Prairie, composed of a bright blue sunny sky and floating grassy islands. This realm introduces the mantas, massive white and gold flying manta rays that you can ride to get to new places and recover your wing power. There are also these darkness plants which you need to burn. Once you've lit the Elder's Altar, you'll also learn that by pressing yourself, you can do a deep call, or as players call it, a shout or yell instead of the regular honk you just get from tapping yourself. Your shout will have many uses, but one of the most important ones is that by shouting next to butterflies, you can summon them and they will help you rise while restoring wing power. The journey through this realm involves going from island to island, removing the darkness plants from these little shrines to free light creatures. The next realm is Hidden Forest, which is darker in tone and colour. It introduces a few mechanics. First, rain, which will deplete your wing power over time. Thus, be careful and stay out of the rain. It also introduces light blooms, translucent growths on the side of trees which you can float on and which restore wing power. Finally, it introduces jellyfish, which you can float on and which, again, restore your wing power. The journey of this realm involves using your light to reconstruct this destroyed bridge, and thus summoning jellyfish to help you to the temple. The next realm is the Valley of Triumph, which, instead of encouraging the player to fly to get places, encourages them to slide and surf. The realm is bright and sunny, an elegant abandoned city in the middle of a rocky, icy desert. The journey through this realm involves sliding through ice and snow in a race to collect light fragments and reach the Colosseum, the pride of this lost civilization and right next to the temple. This realm is the most reminiscent of Journey, which also took place in both sandy and icy deserts and the ruins of an ancient civilization. The next realm is the Golden Wasteland, and is a very different environment from the past ones. You'll reach it through this massive vortex of clouds, which, in a very creepy and harsh change, shifts from the gold of the valley to the green of the wasteland. There are a lot of weird sounds, including this huge call which mirrors the players, and if you look close enough, you'll see something massive moving beneath the clouds. After that terror, you come to this platform and see that your goal is in the distance, beyond more clouds, so you have no choice but to go on, and you do. Only instead of going towards your goal, you get sucked into this massive green vortex and pulled down beneath the clouds. You crash land in this wasteland, literally the Golden Wasteland. While the previous realms had old-fashioned architecture, things that belonged in fantasy Russia or England, this realm has modern-looking industrial pipes which remind me of movies like The Maze Runner. The water in this realm is toxic. If you stand in it for too long, it will sap your wing power. This realm is also absolutely covered in the darkness plants. Like there's still an ongoing infection here. We can find one source, or perhaps a victim of the infection further down the slope. These dark crabs which crawl in the water. These crabs will attack the player, and after a charge up, if they hit you, they'll knock you back and steal some of your wing power. They may not seem like a threat, but be careful. Being chain bumped by these can be your doom. Luckily, the crabs are also easily defeated. Releasing a deep call will knock them onto their backs, making them harmless and allowing you to pick them up and move them like toys if you want. And on we continue through this passageway. Here we find a cute little manta, but when we proceed we see a huge mechanical monster rise up from the water, and when the blue light locks onto the manta, the creature attacks, killing it in front of our eyes. This is a krill, as it is named by the fans, or a dark dragon as named by the game, and it is the turning point of the game. Before the krill, we have been cheerfully making our way through the realms with no fear. But now we have a fear. This thing, if it takes all of our light, will kill us. And there is no way for us to attack it back. It is the representation of the darkness that destroys this world. By this point in my playthrough, I was delighted that I had found a game that had peaceful open world exploration. I was both terrified and devastated when I first saw the krill, to the point that I was so scared off that I stopped playing for months. And this is a common experience. It can be a shock, and with the massive noise they make and the damage they can do to you, many players get scared off by krills. In fact, one time I saw someone just completely quit as soon as they saw it. But there's a reason they're here, as we'll see later. We can sneak past the krill by hiding behind objects, making sure the blue light from their face doesn't fall on us. And when we get past that krill, and believe me, after I got past it, I was so thankful. It was nerve-wracking. I barely got past it, and I was ready to put that experience behind me when I ended up at the top of this hill and looked down, and saw a massive open area with 4 of these monsters in it. Needless to say, that made me instantly quit the game again. This is the graveyard, as you can see. It is made up of the skeletons of these massive ancient creatures, likely whatever we saw in the clouds earlier. The krill patrol this area, so stealth is definitely needed to get through. But when we get through, we come to a thankfully krill-less area. This area, however, has the remnants of a clear conflict. Ruins, spears, shields, slabs of stone, and more. Something clearly happened here, and when we get to the temple, we see what. The elder of this realm is a warrior, and the area we just passed is the battlefield, likely on the front lines of the fight against the darkness, and quite possibly guarding the next realm, which is the Vault of Knowledge. The Vault of Knowledge is a massive tower, like a library, each shelf filled with these objects which hold something? Probably either memories or just light. The whole realm is made up of this central elevator which you need to power up, and is made of these platforms and islands which move and float around in space. It is also home to these ghostly mantas and ghostly waterfalls, both of which you can ride and which restore your wing energy. At the top of the vault is a temple, which is a massive grassy island. And once you have lit the altar's light, you end up in this room, with the elevator before you, a gate to home behind you, and this corridor with burning lights. Very ominous. This is the way to the final realm, the one that is the massive door in your home. This is the Eye of Eden, a massive swirling red vortex that you can only enter if you've collected 20 winged light. and which reminds you repeatedly when you try to enter that you may lose all of your light if you enter. As an aside, I was so scared of this place that I avoided it for several months before finally gaining the courage to enter. Similarly to Wasteland, let's talk about the experience of Eden as I experienced it. You walk through this door into a huge grey and red storm. Let's just say that this place is far from actually being like the Garden of Eden, and far from hospitable. The realm has been completely sucked of life, and obviously there is no life. You also can't find any creatures of light or other helpful things like light blooms. There is only a wasteland of grey rocks, creating hills that are each taller than the one before them, leading into the angry red eye. The eye spews small shards, these glowing red crystals, which will drain your wing energy. Additionally, getting hit by these rocks will take your energy. The only way to keep your energy here is other players and small fires you can light in the occasional corner. The game does give you a prompt here to travel in groups, which is a very wise one and is what I tried to do. But I didn't have any friends to go with, and even though I was part of a small group for a while, I quickly fell behind them and was alone again. For this section of Eden, you have to climb the mountain while avoiding the flying rocks. And don't even think about trying to fly up there. The air resistance here is so great that you'll just expend your power and be lost. When you get to the top and conquer this little gap, which is surprisingly hard to do, you'll be rewarded with a safe place and a winged light. There is only one option for where to go now, through this door to the heart of the Eye of Eden. This place is full of flying rocks, red shards, and yes, our friends, the krill. It's actually a really good thing that the game let us encounter them earlier in Wasteland, because now in Eden we don't have the added stress of seeing them for the first time, and can instead focus on other obstacles, just being incredibly annoyed, like I was, that we had to encounter them again. Just like the krills, the industrial architecture and pipes of Wasteland are in Eden as well, which makes me wonder if they too came from Eden, just like the krills. And now we go through the very, very painful process of trying to climb up the pipes and rocks, while being bombarded with flying rocks, massive winds, and having to avoid the krills and the shards. We also can't just sneak through the bottom, because that has toxic water and crabs. So instead, we just have to suffer. And suffer I did. For some reason, playing this game on my phone makes it have no contrast, and no, increasing the brightness of my screen did not help. So when I play through dark sections of the game, like Wasteland, Vault, Eden, and the Fire Trial, I literally can't see a thing and am fumbling in the dark. Hence why I do my best to avoid Eden and Wasteland, and why they were so scary and difficult for me at first. I have now memorized the layout of Wasteland and Vault, but it's still hard for me to see things, and looking at other players' recordings, I know it's not supposed to be this way. But anyway, we suffer through this literal hellscape, and after dodging one final krill at the end, I came to a winged light. A nice reward for my suffering. And then I continued into the tunnel and saw another one. Sweet! And I kept going and finding more and more and more and more of them. I was shocked. I'd never seen so much wing light in one place. And so I continued up this path until I got this message from the game. There is no turning back. Well, I'd come so far, so I continued. This brings you to the final area of Eden, past the point of no return, or the PNR as players call it. But I didn't know a thing about it then. This area is full of shards, including waves of shards falling from the sky like rain, and the bodies of long-dead, corrupted Sky Kids. Your task is to save them by returning light to them. So I clicked the prompt, and ripped a winged light out of my own chest, sacrificing it for the child. I was kind of horrified, but also felt that this was a very nice thing for my character to do. Literally sharing the light. I was on a mission to save all of the kids. I didn't know at the time it wasn't possible, since I only had about 30 winged light and there are 63 statues. but I did my best. And some point near the end, when I saw a huge number of statues in front of me and my light dwindled to the single digits, I realized there wasn't a way to save them all, and that the only thing I could do here was save as many as possible. I lost my last light to the shards, as I knew I would, and fell over dead. But at the same time, I was horrified. It hadn't occurred to me yet that it was possible to die in the game. I thought that, as poetic as this was, I'd done something wrong and been punished for it. Should I have collected more light before I came? Maybe there was a safe route in the eye of the storm that I hadn't noticed. But no, I did nothing wrong. There is no possible way to survive this part of the game. No matter how many statues you save or how far you progress, the plane you are on will go on forever, and the rain of shards will become stronger and stronger. There is only one way out: to lose all of your light, die, and become one of the statues you tried to save. You can't even return home through the menu. If you return home, you won't be able to enter other realms, and the only option given to you will be to re-enter Eden. And then here was my body, drifting through the void. But I noticed another figure who I could hold hands with and hug. A yin-yang symbolism, the two halves of my whole, likely and possibly the darker and lighter sides of myself. And this power, embracing my inner darkness and light, gave me the power to escape my dead body, along with the other children I had saved. I was shocked when this happened. OMG, I've ascended to my true and final form. I was shocked and I hadn't even thought of the possibility. As you can see, shocked was basically my reaction to the entire end of the game. So then, we fly on, through the crumbling ruins of the city of the Valley of Triumph, surrounded by light creatures and other sky kids we've saved, and encountering the whale, the massive fish we saw earlier in the clouds of Golden Wasteland. And we fly up, past this floating city and into space. This part of the game is called Orbit, and fittingly so, as you pass the spirits you've saved and the friends you've made on your way around, orbiting and slowly becoming a part of this massive ball of light. You'll wake up in this ethereal garden made of water and glowing plants. The children you saved thank you and vanish, leaving behind gifts. The shards of ascended candles, a currency which you can use to buy upgrades with spirits. In the center of the garden is a constellation stone, like the one in your home. Beyond it is a massive golden doorway, clearly the place you need to go to next. And when you use your ascended candles to buy upgrades from spirits, they will appear on the side of the path, giving you light and strengthening the power of your wing. This is a calm and mystical place, and is a great place to let go of all of your emotions from the end of the game. I personally had to brute force my way through most of the game, and this section was no different, unfortunately. I was confused mostly. I had died, and this was clearly the afterlife. But what about the cosmetics I'd collected, the friends I'd made? I was a bit disappointed that I'd have to start again. But I went through the door anyway, curious if there was anything more, and got this message: you are about to be reborn. That was it. This was the point of the game. You, a child of light, free the ancestor spirits and return light to the elders, collecting it as you go through the realms. And when you reach Eden, it is time to fulfill your purpose, and sacrifice yourself for the good of others and the realm. You are finally able to defeat the darkness, and your reward is being able to live on, becoming stronger each time you die in a circular story. At this point, the reality of the end of the game and the poetic nature of my sacrifice hit me. I had to die, but in suffering so much, I had helped the people of this realm, and although I had lost all of my light doing so, I could find it again and explore the world more. I was a bit emotional, to be honest, but probably not as much as many people are. I just don't tend to get emotional with many pieces of media, so the fact that it got anything from me is a great sign. And so my journey and your journey in Sky continues. You can collect more winged light, spirits, and cosmetics, and help new players through the game. By the time you play enough, like me, Krill and Eden become less horrifying aspects of the game and more annoying obstacles, and we even tend to grow fond of them. But now that we've talked about the gameplay, let's talk about the story as such of the game. Each of the realms represents a different stage of life, as follows. The Isle of Dawn is your birth, where you get to explore everything and be in a calm, peaceful, and safe environment. Daylight Prairie is childhood, full of light and new experiences. Hidden Forest is your teenage years. I assume in this case the rainy, darker atmosphere represents teenage angst and moving away from the safety of your parents to explore the world. It also has the first dangers you encounter, such as the first crabs and the rain. Valley of Triumph is your adult years. I guess brighter and more self-sufficient than your teenage and childhood ones, and going through the race or journey of life. Golden Wasteland is a representation of your middle age. I guess the game is implying that middle age is scary and dangerous? Which I guess it is to some people as they slow down, more health issues pop up, and they start to despair about the end of their life. The Vault of Knowledge is your old age, where you gain wisdom, and the Eye of Eden is your death. And, of course, Sky adds on afterlife and rebirth. These categories don't 100% fit the stages of life, but they do take general inspiration, and it's interesting to consider the different ways that these realms could explore those stages of life. Another thing that is important to mention is that you don't encounter another person when you go through the game. There are other Sky Kids you can meet, but they aren't actually there. They can't affect your story, only their own. You can just see them for social reasons, as we'll talk about later. The entire story can be played single player, and really it is. The ancestors aren't alive anymore, and the actual buildings and places you go to have been taken over by plants and snow. Some of them are even in complete ruins. It can be a bit sad and lonely to think about the fact that, really, you're all by yourself in this world, other than a few plants and animals. But perhaps that is the reason you're here to save it. Luckily, unless you focus on the loneliness of the game, you rarely feel lonely, because of the social aspects of it. Let's have a look at them and how they manage to stop the game from being toxic. You may have noticed that I mentioned other people being around occasionally in my playthrough of Sky, and that's because there are other people. These grey figures are other Sky Kids, other players. Not a single one of these figures is a bot or an NPC. By touching candles with them, you can make their acquaintance, and you can later offer them in-game currency to become friends with them and unlock friendship emotes like holding hands, hugging, and piggyback riding. You can't communicate via text with other players. You can only honk and use emotes. Basically, body language. There are many emotes in the game that can communicate many things, and which allow a wide range of communication. You can use the faint emote to show you're glad you survived your krill encounter. You can point to where you want to go, laugh when you're happy, and cry when you're sad. You can wave to other people, or you can even show your goofy personality by impersonating a crab. Even better, as you grow your relationships with the ancestor spirits, you gain upgraded emotes which do different things. So you can give someone a fast, enthusiastic clap, or you can give them a sarcastic slow clap when they do something silly. You can give a random person you just met a small wave, or you can give a returning friend this massive double-handed jumping yoo-hoo wave. Now, you can text chat with other players, but, crucially in my opinion, it takes both effort and consent. To chat with any random player, you have to find one of these benches, light the candle, and both of you have to sit on the bench before you can speak. You also only have a certain amount of time to speak, as your conversation can only last as long as the candle burns. If the candle dies, a player will have to offer one of their own. Remember, giving. Additionally, if either player doesn't want to talk, they can stand up and instantly end the conversation. The need to sacrifice something to speak continues in other chat forms. Players can get spells to place tables and bonfires to chat with others, but again, these cost the spell or the price of the item needed. The other way is with friends. You can unlock chat permanently with friends, but only after you have first unlocked hand-holding, then high-fives, then hugs. These all cost candles, and the cost can add up. Additionally, when trying to unlock a new ability with a friend, you basically propose to them, offering them your candles. But they can choose to decline this if they would rather have a chat-free experience. The barriers to chatting with other players and the cost it takes to talk to friends may seem annoying, but they are one of the ways the game developers have tried to make the game as non-toxic as possible. You need to consent to chatting with someone, and you need to sacrifice a small part of your efforts to be able to do so. Thus, players need to choose carefully who they want to talk to. This also means that you can go long periods where you play with someone and never chatted with them, only to finally chat. Let me recount a funny example of when this happened in my playthrough. I met a player and became friends with them. At this point, I didn't really know you could chat in the game. This happened a week or so after I'd finished Eden for the first time. This friend used to teleport to me, offer me their hand, and take me off to random places around the world of Sky. It was relaxing not needing to fly myself, and it was interesting to see where they would take me, as I hadn't been most places before. The only time it became annoying was the singular time I didn't hold their hand, since I was doing something else with someone else, and they threw a tantrum by using the grumpy stomp emote constantly. But even that emote is kind of cute. One day I took this friend's hand, and without hesitation, they took me all the way through Eden. I was completely unprepared to go through Eden a second time and was petrified of it, since my first experience had been so hard. But this friend used a shortcut which other players have found, which helps you bypass the hardest parts of the realm, and when we got to the statue section, they had actually memorized the layout of the statues. Thus, I was able to save many more of them. This player stretched my understanding of the game and helped me overcome my fear of Eden. Keep in mind that this trip was entirely consensual on my part, as I could have let go of their hand at any time and just returned home. But we went through Eden and Orbit together, completely unexpectedly, and at the end I thought that I should really unlock chat and thank them for this. We had been playing together for almost 2 months at this point and had communicated solely through emotes and chirps. I would give encouraging chirps when we were travelling through Eden, or panicked ones if we came too close to a krill, for instance. I can't express enough in words how perfectly we had communicated with each other over those 2 months. We knew exactly what the other person meant. And then we unlocked the chat function. I sent a little message thanking them for taking me through Eden, and after a little pause, they responded. In Arabic. This entire time we had communicated perfectly, but we had actually been speaking completely different languages, and neither of us understood the other's language. This has happened often to me since. Most of the people I have chatted with speak Japanese or Chinese or even French, and very few in comparison have spoken English. But despite the language barrier, we could still communicate perfectly because the game gave us expressive ways to do so. Later, the game did add a chat translate function, which kind of Google translates whatever people say, and which I think is an amazing addition. Of course, with Google Translate, you can't have a full understanding of what they say, but it's good enough, and it really helps with communication. I actually haven't seen my hand-grabbing Eden friend in a while. I think they went inactive. But they did provide me with a very memorable experience which proves the unique nature of communication in this game. I hadn't even considered that they could possibly speak a different language. The fact that chat in Sky takes effort, consent, time, and often in-game currency is probably the biggest factor in maintaining a non-toxic environment. But it's not the only one. Let's talk about other key aspects reducing toxicity, such as working together and not competing. Sky as an experience is designed to promote a lack of toxicity, and a few of the ways the game does this is by promoting cooperation and reducing competition. Let's talk first about competition. Many of the games that I mentioned at the start of this video as examples of toxic games are also examples of competitive games. Overwatch, CSGO, Fortnite, and League of Legends are examples of games where you have the sad combination of game mechanics that require you to compete against others and also require you to work together to do well. This creates an environment where not everyone carries their weight equally in a team, but where you'll always notice when the other team is doing better than yours. Hence, it creates a feeling of frustration towards both your team and the other team, and sometimes even towards the game itself. And it elicits thoughts like, everyone on this team is worse than me. I need to carry them. And if every player on this team was like me, we'd win easily. It also creates ideas like that of loser's queue in League of Legends. The idea that you are actually a great player, but the game is sabotaging you by giving you trash teammates. This is all confirmation bias. Since we already believe that our team is bad and thus the other team is better, we only notice when our team is doing badly and when the other team is doing well. We don't notice when we are doing well and they are doing badly. And thus toxicity rages on. It doesn't help that a lot of these games are very violent and graphic either. They create a subconscious connection to violence in our heads, creating adrenaline and anger. But a lot of the not-so-toxic games I mentioned are ones that are either less violent or not as competitive. Games like Portal are single-player or require cooperation instead of competition. Games like Minecraft offer the option to work together to make bigger and better things. And games like Warframe, even though they are violent, have co-op elements which make people work together for the best outcomes. The AI is also exactly the same no matter what, so it's not like you need to worry about going up against a team that's way more skilled than you. Obviously, these communities still have toxic elements, but far less so than games like League. Sky takes this a step further by taking away almost all competition between players. The only ways to compete in this game are through playing this little soccer game and through racing down the slopes in the Valley of Triumph, both of which are fun side activities not related to the main game, and which you have to consent to as a player by physically getting involved. You can be like me and never do them, or you can do them constantly because you find them fun. Because Sky has a lack of competition, you don't need to worry about the consequences of winning or losing, or whether someone is better at something than you. You just get to have fun doing what you like to do. The second big aspect is cooperation. Sky can be played from beginning to end as a single-player game, and if you're like me and your internet is bad, other players won't actually show up on screen for you, and you'll literally be alone in the world. But just because you can play it alone doesn't necessarily mean you should. I mean, you can get through the game without a cape, but that doesn't mean you should. The game is not only more fun with friends and other players, but is also easier. There are a few doors to collect spirits and winged light, which, while not essential to open, can only be opened with the help of other people. There are spirits whose memories require you to stay inside this circle, like this one in Daylight Prairie, which is considered the hardest in the game to collect. These circles are hard to move up or down stairs, and this spirit memory is all stairs. It's much easier to do these with 2 or 3 players rather than 1, hence the cooperation to get a mutual goal. The biggest example of this is the 8-player puzzle lift in Daylight Prairie. A server in Sky only holds 8 people, so you need to coordinate every single person in a server to get through this door. But, as a reward, you get raised to this space which has a huge amount of light to collect, another winged light, and an area where you can summon a little dog called Oreo. There are also a few seasonal quests, like these ones in the Hidden Forest, which require you to have multiple players to complete. Another example of cooperation in Sky is shard events. Shard events happen daily where a shard falls from the Eye of Eden to another realm. The players have to cleanse the darkness and in return get a reward, scaling roughly based on difficulty. The most difficult shards are red ones, which are angrier, come with these mutated crabs who attack you rather than falling when you shout, and which will instantly steal your winged light if you run into them. The worst red shards are ones like this in Hidden Forest, where there are no nearby sources of light, the rain is constantly sapping your wing power, and it's in an enclosed space so you can't dodge the crabs easily or lead them away. Shards are infinitely easier to do with other players. You don't even have to know the players. Other players can distract crabs, help burn dark plants, and pick up fallen winged light. They make these events faster and safer to complete, and it's a win all round. Eden itself is, as the game says, much easier to go through in groups. Not only can you collect winged light, you can also act as a wind buffer for each other like birds do in the real world. And when you get to the final segment with the statues, you can help each other stay alive longer, thus saving more statues and gaining more ascended candles. Finally, the most simple example. By standing next to a player whose candle you have lit, you will regain wing power slowly, or faster if you stand closer to them. This means that players are a huge source of wing power if you've used it. Holding hands with a friend means that if you use your flaps sparingly, you can fly forever, and reach locations you otherwise wouldn't be able to. It makes traversing the world much easier and safer when you hold hands with someone. All of these mechanics reduce the levels of competition between players while encouraging people to work together to make the game easier. This is a mechanic that also existed in Journey to some extent, and both of them encourage players to be less toxic and more altruistic, leading to the amazing experience that playing this game often is. Now, Sky does have a lot of mechanics that make it harder for people to communicate through text with each other. But if you want to ask people explicitly for anything, whether it's help, a question you have, or something else, you can do that through Sky's online communities. So let's talk about how amazing those things are. Sky has two major online communities that I will be talking about, YouTube and Discord. Let's talk about the YouTube side first. On YouTube, you can watch new people play the game, of course, but there are also many channels dedicated to helping new players learn the game, and old players improve and save time. Some well-known ones are Nasty Mold, The Moth Couple, and Noob Mode. These channels create walkthroughs for players, telling them how to make their lives easier when doing challenges in the game, or showing shortcuts like those in Eden. They also tend to make videos like these, showing players where that day's shard has fallen, and how to complete the daily quests that are set. They are great resources if you're struggling with any aspect of the game, from flying to finding spirits to whatever else. One video that I found particularly helpful was Nasty Mold's video walkthrough of the fire trial, which includes maps and marked safe areas. The Sky YouTube community also includes a lot of people who make meme videos and animations, as you'd expect. Here are some meme moments and animations I enjoyed, which of course will be linked in the reference document in the description. Next, let's talk about Discord. Sky has a Discord community run by the thatgamecompany staff, which, as of the time of writing this, has a bit less than 540,000 members. The server allows people to chat, request someone to guide them through a section of the game, share art, talk to the devs and report bugs, and so on. Typical Discord stuff. However, it does have some unique functions. First, all of the emotes are the icons of Sky emotes, or otherwise related, which is really cute, and which allows the same communication system developed in the game to roll over to the text community. As expected, there are also roles that you can react to allocate your self-themed roles, such as showing which season of the game you started playing in. Second, there is no voice channel here, another mechanic to reduce excessive communication and thus toxicity, as well as to protect the community. Third, trading of any kind, hearts, season passes, etc. is banned, promoting an altruistic community attitude as you can only give, not trade. If you want to find people to trade hearts with, you'll have to go over to the YouTube communities. Fourth, the server has a weekly poll which you can react to enter a raffle to get candles. This is really cute in my opinion because people get to discover new things about the game, see what others in the community think, and generally have a small amount of fun each week. I love voting on the poll every single Tuesday. Finally, and probably the most important, is this channel called Looking for Group. This channel, in my opinion, is the best part of this server. In this channel, people can request a guide to any area of the game, and one will most likely be found. Moths, or new players, can request someone to help them not get murdered by a krill. People who need help with multiplayer treehouse quests can ask people to join them, and people like me who struggle to get through Eden since they can't see anything can request someone to help them not get murdered by a shard krill combo in the first 5 seconds. Additionally, a group of players called Ubers can advertise themselves here. As the name suggests, Ubers will befriend players, hold their hands and fly them around the world of Sky. This has many uses and each Uber specialises in different things. Some fly people through Eden, some fly them to collect winged light, some help with quests, some help with the Cave of Prophecy trials, which are by far the hardest quests in the game, some help with daily quests, and some do multiple or even all of these things. They are typically experienced players who play the game often and want to help others. The literal epitome of altruism in this game community. The most in-demand Ubers are the ones who do candle runs, a process where the player journeys through all 6 realms and lights every candle and burns every piece of darkness, thus collecting lots of light to forge lots of in-game currency and thus to be able to buy in-game cosmetics. Here are some examples of Uber advertisements on the channel. You can see that they usually say which realms they will go to, whether or not they are doing the 4 prophecy trials, how many people they will take, and whether the people they take are allowed to be AFK or not. Semi-AFK is the most commonly advertised option and is a very interesting one. What this means is that you're allowed to be AFK, but if the Uber needs you for anything, they can repeatedly honk and shout to get your attention. So basically, you just need to be able to hear the game. This is an interesting way that people have chosen to use the in-game mechanics to communicate with and help each other. There are many other great examples of how players have adapted the mechanics of the game, but this is also something that happens in every game, like teabagging in Overwatch and using the question mark ping in League of Legends, and game communication is a topic for another video. Although the international Sky server is the largest Sky Discord community, many YouTubers have their own servers. The most prominent one is likely Nasty Molds. These servers are more lax generally, since they are more casual, not entirely related to Sky, and because they aren't associated with the actual company. Thus, Nasty Mold's server is still Sky-centric and chill, but also includes voice channels and a dedicated heart trading channel. Alright, let's talk about YouTube. There are 3 main varieties of Sky YouTube creators: guides, memes, and animations. Of course, there are other creators, like people who record themselves playing songs in-game, but these are probably the biggest ones. Guide channels include those like Nasty Mold, The Moth Couple, and Noob Mode, and these channels post guides as I said above. They also post about upcoming content like the price of soon-to-be-released cosmetics, and they tend to post daily videos showing how to complete those days' quests. The second breed of YouTube videos are the memes. These tend to include funny moments players encounter in the game or use inside jokes. The last major variety of YouTube channels are the animation ones, and they are exactly what they sound like. They create animations related to the game and common situations or personal stories in it. I especially like this one with a krill rave. So what have we learned from this? Well, that the Sky community outside of the game allows you to instantly communicate by text if you'd like, and uses this and the design of the Discord servers to encourage altruism and promote ongoing non-toxicity. It's insane how literally every single part of this game is made to reduce toxicity, and it's even more insane that it actually works. These communities allow people to learn from each other and ask questions, and I wish I knew more about them when I was a moth because they're so helpful. Let's take a little intermission to talk about some other things that I love in this game, just in general. Let's start with something super cute and useful. In this little glade in the hidden forest, you can find this table, and once every 2 hours, starting 30 minutes after daily reset, where quests and light levels reset, a grandma spirit will appear here. She walks around for 5 minutes and then serves dinner in the form of these little dumplings for 10 minutes. Burning these dumplings will give you lots and lots of light, making it a nice easy way to gain some in-game currency. At the end of the dinner, you can hug Grandma to thank her for the meal before she returns to wherever spirits go. This is a super cute and useful little event. I especially love how Grandma sits at the table, counting down to when the next round of dumplings appear, or talking back to the players. She has this cute little honk. And after you hug her, she'll give you some flying kisses to thank you for your time. In a similar vein, in each realm you can also find these social light areas, which either have a massive candle cake or generate balls of light passively over time. These locations also typically have chat benches. These are super cute and snug little places and are just a great place to relax if you ever want to chill in Sky. My favourite one is this hidden nook in Prairie. It feels like the place that I would have loved to live when I was younger, and even now would be a great place to set up a house. It's got a nice little warm bonfire, a balcony, and an indoor pool with a wide view of the sky and a little beach. A wondrous little place. In these spaces, you might notice that there are these little purple and blue objects on the ground. These are shared memory and shared space spells. They can be placed around the world and used to communicate with other players in a one-sided manner. A shared memory spell lets you record yourself, and when you're done, this crystal can be lit by other players to play that memory in a ghostly form. These memories act like real players to some extent, in all ways other than physically interacting with the environment. For instance, they can't open doors, but they can refresh your wing power by standing near you and honking, and they can perform emotes, move, and type in chat. This means that players often put these spells on the map in places where players have likely run out of wing energy, for instance at the top of the hill in the Village of Dreams, or at the entrance to the battlefield in Golden Wasteland. These are typically tagged with a battery or power emoji so that you know exactly what you're getting. Another way these are used is during shard events. These players honk, thus leading the red crabs towards them, then honk again and move again, and so on. This can lead crabs away from the actual player, thus making clearing the shard easier. The memory can't be harmed by the crab, so they can work without fear. These are just more of the ways the mechanics of the game promote altruism and have been used in unique ways for that purpose. The second are shared space spells. When you gain gifts from spirits, you can gain some items like chairs, tables, wind chimes, and more, which can be placed in shared spaces like this one in Prairie or by using spells. They create these cute spaces, a bit like building your own home, and that's all I have to say about them. Next, let's talk about the animations in Sky. I absolutely love these animations. They're all super expressive, super detailed, and super cute, even down to the walk animation. I love how when you hold your candle and walk, it looks like your character is eagerly holding out the candle to everyone and everything. I also love how, if you stay idle for a while, your Sky Kid takes a few moments to stretch. They will also put out their arms to touch anything nearby. For instance, they'll put a hand on a pole or will put both arms against a wall. And sometimes they'll turn their heads to look at something, or if you land on an uneven surface, they'll bend a leg to make themselves stable. It's very cute and makes them feel much more alive. You can also unlock different stances and calls, which make your honks sound different or your character stand differently. These stances don't change how you fly, walk, or perform emotes, but they do change how you sit. Sitting is an emote that everyone unlocks instantly at the start of the game and comes in 3 stages. If you click once, you'll sit, a second time and you'll lounge, and a third time and you'll lie down. A 4th click will make your Sky Kid stand up again. I love 2 things about this. First, how each of the stances will make you sit, lounge, and lie in different ways, and how this can be used to express personality, and how you'll perform emotes while in these states. Pressing an emote when sitting won't make you stand, you'll just perform that emote with only the top half of your body. It can look a bit funny, but it can also be really cute. Here are some examples. In a similar vein, the emotes themselves are amazing. There's a huge variety in what you can express to others. From a humble greeting bow to a thank you bow to a "oh yes, you're welcome" pompous bow. You can point, grumble, laugh, send flying kisses, blow bubbles, cheer, pretend to be a crab, dance, meditate, and more. And as you grow your relationship with the matching spirit, you gain more expressive emotes. So basically, whoever does these animations is amazing. The cape especially is such a huge part of the Sky Kid's design and thus is super important to get right. And I think they've done exactly that. It's animated so smoothly and with great flow and movement. I love it. Let's talk about something similar, cosmetics and appearance. As you improve your relationship with spirits, you can gift them candles and hearts, and in return, they'll give you outfit pieces. There are a few categories these can fall into: capes, masks, hair, items, pants, and accessories for all of these. Accessories include things like scarves, hats, shoes, and hair clips. Interestingly, masks can also change your skin colour, and colours range from deep brown to black to even a purplish tinge. You can mix and match these as long as you have a place for them, and this can lead to some wacky combos. All of them are extremely well made and cute, and chances are you'll find something that suits your taste. I love playing dress-ups with my Sky Kid. Here are a few of my favourite outfits. You know, some people say that Sky is just a glorified dress-up game, and honestly, I won't argue against that. Sometimes the game gives me the exact same hit as a dress-up game. And the best thing is that a lot of these cosmetics are free. Even during events, most of the cosmetics can be bought with in-game currency. Sure, a lot of them are expensive, and you have to work hard to earn this in-game currency, and of course, some of the best items are always pay-only, but most of them can be earned for free and will come back in the future in some form or another. This means that you can gain a huge wardrobe and have tons of fun and express yourself, all without paying any money. Sky really does live up to the title of the best free game ever. I, for instance, am a huge fan of emphasizing how alien and non-human my Sky Kid is. I like using animal masks and stuff that covers up their body features. Similarly, I like things that make my Sky Kid look extra graceful. Another aspect of cosmetics is your Sky Kid's height. Believe it or not, your height can range on a huge spectrum, from super tiny to super tall. You can change your height by using these temporary spells you get from spirits, or these permanent spells which randomly change your height. Alternatively, there is a chibi mask which you can buy from one of these spirits, which will instantly shrink you to baby size. This is desirable because when you're small, not only do you Naruto run instead of run normally, but you can also more easily clip through objects, easily accessing hidden areas and shortcuts in the game. Unfortunately, there isn't a mask to make you big, which is sad, because I love being tall and desperately want to be the tallest height, and I know others do too. That said, every single height in the game is fun, from super small to average to tall. I just love being Ubered and dragged around by a chibi when I'm 5 times their size. Speaking of spells, there are tons of cool spells you can get. First, you can get cosmetic spells, which you can get for free during each event. They give you a taster of the cosmetics available in that event, so you can try them before you buy them. Then there are spells like the Shared Memory and Shared Stance spells, and spells which will just shoot fireworks into the air or something similar. There are also spells that have legitimate uses in the game, like glow spells for when you're in dark areas, instant recharge spells for when you get krilled or are in Eden, and krill repellent spells. There are spells that place a social table or a bonfire to chat, and so on. My favourites are these trail spells, which make the trail your Sky Kid makes when flying change colour. They're just super fun to coordinate with friends and with your outfits. Next, I wanted to talk about the details of the world of the game itself. First, I wanted to talk about how I love the light creatures and the little noises they make. Throughout the world, there are various types of light creatures you can find. From these tiny little jellyfish to these manatees and to various sizes of manta rays. Each of these creatures make their own little noise, and although you can't interact with all of them, you can interact with some, such as using jellyfish and mantas to get to higher areas of the map. What I wanted to mention here is just that I love all of the little noises they make. I love how at the Sanctuary Island, after you've completed all of the quests and saved the light creatures, the island goes from completely silent to becoming a zoo of various light creatures and their sounds, like a dawn chorus of birds. I also love how, when you pass these groups of tiny jellyfish in the Valley of Triumph, they make little bloop noises which are so cute and satisfying. Finally, I wanted to talk about the game environments. The world of this game is beautiful, both in the big and small details. There are tons of small cozy spots in the world, like the cave in Prairie or the theatre in the Valley of Triumph. There are also some cute koi ponds, or these little tree houses in the hidden forest. Second, we have the massive open realms of the game. Whenever you enter a new section for the first time, your breath is literally taken away. There is a sense of magic in every new area, and it's both just real enough and just unreal enough to make it feel both tangible and unique. Each area brings possibilities for explorations and new little nooks, and each is wonderfully designed for a race of creatures which both walk and fly. Let me run you through some of my favourite areas of the game. Here is this little sunny clearing in the hidden forest where Grandma makes her dumplings, with a cute little treehouse. There's also the treehouse in the forest, which is bigger and which has hammocks to lounge in and a diving board and little pool. There's the Prairie Peaks, which have a beautiful day-night cycle and a waterfall with a river, and the repository in the Vault of Knowledge where the stars stretch on forever. There's also the Sanctuary Island in Prairie, which is massive and spectacular. I love these little caves in the flying islands which serve as nice lookouts over the environment. You can also access the Isle of Dawn at night, which is mystical and magical, and the massive citadel in the Valley of Triumph. I also love the Forgotten Ark in Golden Wasteland, which is initially dark and creepy, but as you complete quests, becomes bright and full of flowers and light. And the Wind Paths in Forest, which gives you tons of places to explore. Even just the journeys into new realms. The flights at the beginning of the Hidden Forest and Valley of Triumph are magical and exciting, introducing you to a completely new world. But my absolute favourite place in the game is this one, the underground cavern in the Hidden Forest. This place is amazing. It's home to the massive fish from the Golden Wasteland and to many birds, light blooms and jellyfish. It's a huge cavern with moss and plants everywhere, and which has spires and hidden caves, as well as waterfalls, trees, and the remnants of some ancient buildings. The cave floor can't be seen and is hidden by green mist, giving it an air of danger and mystery and making us wonder how far down it goes, especially since the fish can easily remain hidden in it. The cave is dominated by these massive spires which birds fly around, providing you light to help you get to the top. The spires will lead you to other hidden caves and to the top, where a gate will take you back to the sunny clearing, giving you a winged light for your efforts. The green grass and light and the curving hills and cliffs make me think of some magic Celtic wonderland, or some tiny hidden fairy world. This place literally made my jaw drop when I saw it for the first time, and although I don't go there anymore, since there isn't much to do once you've collected all the spirits and quests there, that doesn't stop me from being in absolute awe of it and calling it my favourite place in the game. It is so entirely unique from both other realms and even from anything else in Hidden Forest. And I highly recommend that as soon as you unlock this area, you spend some time having a great exploration of it. I just recommend you bring a friend and fly with the birds and jellyfish, because getting to the top can be hard without knowing how to restore your wing power. Next, I want to talk about side quests. Every few months, for a few months, Sky has a season. These seasons introduce new spirits, emotes, and items, and have quests the players can complete to unlock a story over the course of the season. Once the season has ended, some of the items are no longer available, but the ancestor spirit who guides the players through the quests will remain in place. Players can return to these spirits and do the quests after the season has ended, for a smaller reward. And let me tell you that these quests are super fun and varied. I really enjoyed coming across the spirits without knowing what they were, and then completing the quests. Most of these spirits are in certain bonus areas, and as you complete the quests, the areas will be upgraded. For example, in the Forgotten Ark, the area becomes brighter and the Ark is decorated, and in Sanctuary Islands, more light creatures appear. The quests themselves are usually simple, but bring you to new areas of the world and help you discover cozy spots, like the tree houses in the Hidden Forest. Some of these quests involve finding objects, some of them use teamwork with multiple players, and some are more complex, like those in the Season of Abyss. Spoilers ahead. This season is the only one that I hadn't finished until, well, yesterday at the time of writing this part of the script. And that is for one very important reason: the krill. This season involves the player collecting resources and artifacts for a crew of pirates? Shipmates of some kind. The first few are fine, and you get to spend time with these light plants underwater. But then you go further down, literally into the abyss, and then you find ruins, and even worse, underwater krill. This is horrifying. I have krill trauma, and to keep finding them in places where I thought I was safe makes my skin crawl, especially since I struggle with the underwater movement system. So basically, this was my worst nightmare. But luckily, after a few months, I have had the courage to continue again, having purposely spoiled the quests for myself to make sure I am prepared for what is to come. And let me say, I was still not prepared. After you pass the krill, you'll be in the absolute depths of the ruins, and in the process of collecting some of the resources, you open this massive door which releases a swarm of krill, and then something horrifying. A massive red king krill. This thing is huge. You thought the krill or the massive fish in the Hidden Forest were big? This thing is 10 times that size, or possibly even more. It has a multitude of red eyes the size of a sky kid, and, unlike regular krill, a huge gaping mouth, ready to swallow you whole. For now, you can ignore it, and it will ignore you. But in the next quest, you need to save the cackling cannoneer from the depths of the abyss, and as you start to drag them up, the king krill emerges, and, no matter how fast you swim, swallows you both whole. OMG. Now, I knew this was going to happen, and the only way I got through it was from looking away from the screen while this all happened, because I don't need more krill trauma in my life. Inside the krill, you wake up in this dark space and find a darkness plant and the unconscious cannoneer. Burning the darkness reveals this manta who has been encased in stone and turned dark, and when you relight the manta, it will do what I presume is manta speak for thank you, and use its light and the light of many other creatures the krill swallowed to burst its way out of the krill and free both you and the cannoneer. And thus you can rise back to the surface and complete the story. So this season really shows how different quests can help you explore new areas and explore new mechanics in the game, which is super fun. Now, to finish off this section, let's talk about the small details that make the game massively better. First is the toy items you can get, which let you cuddle the soft toy. I don't think I need to explain why that's great. Second is how your Sky Kid, if you fly close to the ground, will move their body and feet under them to prepare to land. And if you pass over that ground, they'll awkwardly hang their feet there for a little bit because, well, they thought they were about to land. I just think it's great because there's a transition animation from flying to sliding/standing, and you can kind of break that too. It looks cute and a bit funny. The other thing is all of the little sound effects that make this world feel more alive. First is the fact that when you run, you'll have different footfall sound effects for whatever material you're walking on: grass, stone, ice, sand, etc. Also, if you hit the ground running fast in this cave, there will be a larger echo than if you just hit stony ground anywhere else, because you're in a cave. One cool detail is that if you fly in the rain, there will be this sizzling sound, because you're consuming light in the rain. A nice little detail that emphasizes the danger of losing light in the rain. But as much as this game is a pinnacle of excellent non-toxic game design that provides a great experience to tons of people, it, as with all things, also has its downsides. Luckily, the downsides for this game and community are far less than those for most other games. League of Legends, they are still there, even if it is in the tiniest little grain possible. So, let's discuss some of the negative aspects of the game and community. Let's start with the game itself. Some people complain that the game has too much monetization and that these items cost too much. The sheer number of cosmetics and the effort it takes to get things for free can cause a lot of stress for those who want to play the game casually but still want cosmetics. This results in people feeling guilt or even getting severe feelings of FOMO. This leads to obsessive candle runs that cause the game to lose all fun and excitement. And if you are one of these people, and believe me, I used to be, I will say that almost every single cosmetic will come back eventually. Seasonal spirits? They'll come back as travelling spirits. Sure, it may take 3 years, but they'll come back and you'll get the cosmetics then. Seasonal events like Christmas and Halloween will similarly come back. The only problem you're facing is spending a lot of time waiting for spirits to come back and spending more candles, as things are more expensive the second time around. Even some paid cosmetics later become unpaid. I felt so bad that I couldn't get this cape because it was only available through in-app purchases, but it came back a few months later in Days of Colour for in-game currency. Very few cosmetics remain paid only forever. You can take a break and, yeah, you'll miss out on some things, but the game makes sure that you can almost always access these things later anyway, so don't worry. However, this doesn't stop some people from considering the game a bit predatory in-game transactions, something that, having now presented the evidence to you, I'll let you decide for yourself. Now let's talk about the community. In any community this big, there is bound to be a group of people who aren't as nice as others. In the case of the Sky community, this manifests as general creeps. You know, the people who creep on girls and minors and other things, and people who bully Ubers. The first group of people are far more unfortunate. I don't think you can unfriend people in Sky, but you can block them and you can disable chat. So if you're ever in a situation with one of these creeps, use your options or contact the devs. And of course, at all times remember internet safety. The second group of people are the people who take Ubers and their efforts for granted, and either demand that they go to extra realms, or demand that they do things like going back for a single piece of light they missed. There isn't much to do with these people that isn't what I already said about creeps, but please, people, be nice to your Ubers. They're giving up their time and effort to help people in a game they're passionate about, so you don't really have the right to bully them to do what you want. Not to mention that that's just rude anyway, and not in the spirit of this game. Finally, we have a much more controversial issue that I can't really offer an opinion on. And that's because I am a very white person, and this issue is about people doing fan art of their Sky Kids where they show them as white. There are arguments either way as to whether this is okay or not. First, all Sky Kids are canonically black. They can be different colours based on the cosmetics and lighting, but they will always be some variation of black. Similarly, it is pretty clear that even though they're blue, most of the spirits in the game are black as well. So if we go by the canonical argument, yes, they are all black, and making them white is whitewashing. People who think they should be able to draw their Sky Kids as white argue that each Sky Kid is a representation of the player, and if the player is white, why not make the Sky Kid which is supposed to represent them white? To which, people against white Sky Kids say that, if you need to make a character white to be able to relate to them and feel they represent you, you are perpetuating the racism that exists in today's society and the erasure and whitewashing of characters of colour in media. And why can't you relate to a black person anyway? And those are pretty much all of the arguments. It was pretty quick. It's not a huge concern in the community, but it is there. I will let you choose whether you believe that white Sky Kids are okay or not. But in my opinion, for what little it matters here, I think that white Sky Kids are at the very least dodgy. Not the least because they just don't look right. Like, I won't show any fan art here because I don't want to single out any artists, but when you look at white Sky Kids, they just look like anime characters, not actual Sky Kids. They don't have the same mitten hands and body structure, and they don't suit lots of the cosmetics, which are designed to go on a character model with dark skin. I think that black Sky Kid art looks better, but that's just my subjective taste in art, so take from that what you'd like. Finally, for this video, let's talk about why, despite these issues, I still play the game, and why you should give it a try too. Well, they're relatively simple answers. Sure, I do find the game boring at times. I've collected all of the spirits and quests, so a large portion of my time playing now is just candle runs. But just because I find elements of it boring doesn't mean I find everything boring. I still have a sense of progression through collecting cosmetics, and the new spirits, seasons, and days of events introduce new content which I find interesting. Most of all, I just love returning to the world and looking at all of the little details that make the game so good and deep. So why should you download and play this game? Well, I hope you don't need to ask that question if you're this far into the video, but I'll summarize it for you. Sky is a free game with a huge amount of content to explore. The graphics, animation, and world are wondrous and detailed, and it's super fun to explore. The game has elements that almost everyone can enjoy. Open world exploration, fantasy, obstacle courses and puzzles, a great sense of progression, socials, a great story, music and tools, cosmetics, and so on. Chances are there's something you'll love doing in this game, and even if there isn't, you can still enjoy the story of a free game and one that shows passion from the devs. Or you might be like me and might just really love looking at how this game succeeds in making a non-toxic game environment and community. It's just a super cool experience, and I really recommend you give it a go. Just be aware that if you have an old phone like mine, it will make your phone go hotter than a meteor. Sky Children of the Light is a free open-world exploration game which set out to create a non-toxic, emotionally engaging, and social cross-platform game. And, despite what many people think when I say a group of devs wanted to make a non-toxic game, aka they think they failed miserably, the devs of Sky actually succeeded. Even more than that, they knocked it out of the park. Every aspect of the game and its community is designed to reduce the toxicity of the game and to create a great story. It's a fun game that has something for almost everyone, and which has content of some degree almost continually added to keep you invested. It's perfect for casual play, but also has options for those who want to sink hours into it, including theories about the world and lore. It has great graphics and amazing animations, and generally lives up to the title of the best free-to-play game ever. It's kind of crazy how the devs have managed to do this and sustain it over so long, and the game shows no signs of slowing down soon. I love the game and have had amazing experiences with it, as you'd imagine from the fact that I'm making this video. But I really recommend that if you haven't already, you check it out. Although the game and community do have some negative elements, it is overwhelmingly positive, and that's what matters, right? But that's it for this video. I've discussed everything I wanted to, finally. Thanks for watching, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time.